All right, welcome to Redspin Sports. It's a Thursday night, which means you're here with the best leftist commentary on live YouTube at least. Here with Justin Williams and Nate Wallace tonight. Mike will be back in the saddle with us next week, and then we got the great Chuck Modiano, Chuck Modi, on for the 24th. So 2 weeks from now, mark that down. Will be with us, who used to be with Deadspin, the New York Daily News, and now is the guy a lot of us rely on for a lot of great coverage of a lot of the protest actions that aren't being covered by the media. So got a lot to talk to him about here in 2 weeks. So looking forward to that. But Justin, we got to kick it off with letting you hot take and burn on Bo Schembechler, Michigan men, and also, if you want to, Jim Harbaugh's reaction, essentially saying that all these people are lying.
Yeah. So, it's particularly personal for me in some ways, obviously, small scale compared, but at the same time, most of the people being from Michigan, most of the people in my family though, went to Penn State. I didn't root for Michigan or Michigan State outside of the Fab Five in basketball. But at the same time, the reactions and how they differ depending on who the coach is and what the scenario is, And I think that we've talked about this before, right? Like if with Coach K, even we talked about this, right? Like Coach K never claimed to do things right. He lets the media tell everybody that he does things the right way. You can't appoint yourself in that. And, Joe put a target on his back by saying it's the Penn State way, which was nothing like being a Michigan man. You know what I mean? It was just, if your grades aren't up, you're not gonna play. Like it was just simple like football, like coach lessons things, right? The burning down of Joe's legacy with everything that happened with Jerry Sandusky, a man that Joe Paterno himself disliked and definitely didn't go out of his way to protect in any way. It took a lot of that from a lot of heat from a lot of the Michigan fans being like, Bo, now there's a guy who never would have had this. And, today was bittersweet because I didn't text any of them. I thought about texting a lot of them. But I feel like they would just have the Harbaugh reaction, right? So if people don't know, Bo Schembechler's adopted son is going to give a press conference and give more detail and also provide testimony if he can with any, I know that both Bo and the perpetrator of all the sexual abuse are both deceased. So I don't know what's going to come of that, but Bo Schembechler's son is willing to participate in anything that he can. Said that he was first molested by this team doctor when he was 10. And then he went home and he told Bo Schembechler about it. And he said that was the first time, emphasis on first time. He said that was the first time he closed fist punched me. He was 10. Which also goes on to say that's repeated, right? Like that was just the first time that Bo Schembechler hit his kid with a closed fist. The reaction has been, pretty tepid. I've tried to find, a little bit more like deep discourse on it. There's not a lot. It's just either people being like, oh, that's a shame, or the Jim Harbaugh thing, like you mentioned, where Jim Harbaugh is going on the offensive, defending the school, defending everything by just going, there's no possible way.
It's not possible. It's not possible. Justin, if you don't mind, could I read from the mlive.com, which is kind of like the US part of the USA Today network. It's crazy how the USA Today network is like essentially every local newspaper in the country, basically. Gannett. It really is wild, but it's mind blowing. So, anyways, it goes Wolverines coverage here. Jim Harbaugh. I actually got the train going by there in South Bend. Lovely. I got a bunch of 18-wheelers going by me constantly here in the heavy industrial area of Newark and North Jersey here. So, I understand. So, anyways, Jim Harbaugh's defense of Bo prompted Michigan teammate to disclose sexual abuse. This was just updated less than about 3 hours ago. All right, Jim Harbaugh says that Bo Schembechler he knew would never have looked the other way on claims of sexual abuse. But a former teammate of Harbaugh's at the University of Michigan categorically disputed that notion on Thursday, telling reporters, he is among the long list of victims of Dr. Robert Anderson, the former athletic department physician accused of assault over a 30-year span. Giovanni Johnson, a wide receiver on the Michigan football team from 82 to 86, the same period Harbaugh was also on the roster, says he was subject to multiple instances of testicular groping and anal penetration from Anderson. Quote, before my preseason physical my freshman year, you would hear jokes from upperclassmen about seeing Dr. Anal, said Johnson, wiping away tears during his testimony. I really didn't know what Dr. Anal meant. Johnson detailed one occasion in which he had a rectal exam and Anderson, quote, played with my penis. He felt uncomfortable, he says, and later told Schembechler about the encounter. Schembechler, Johnson said, told the Detroit native, quote, he would check on that with the medical staff. Johnson never heard back from his coach on the issue. He never discussed it with me again, Johnson said. Other players told me not to bring it up with Bo again, that Bo might pull my scholarship. I was told not to rock the boat. Johnson joined a second former Michigan football player, Daniel Kwiatkowski. I mean, I'm sorry, man. That's tough.
Sounds right.
Yeah, on Thursday to detail their encounters with Anderson, who worked at the University of Michigan from the late 1960s to early 2000s. During the later portion of his tenure, Anderson served as the chief physician for the athletic department. If you would have walked through our locker room at the time, it was a constant joke, said Kwiatkowski, who was an offensive tackle at Michigan from 77 to 79. If you had come back from the doctor, you got teased because you got Dr. Andersized. Now, Kwiatkowski qualified his comments by saying assistant coaches nor Bo tended to hang out in the locker room with players. They weren't necessarily subjected to the jokes and player banter. And I mean, I'll just stop right there. Like, I mean, the notion that there's any kind of plausible deniability like with this is just insane now. I mean, this is like, I mean, it's clear that like you have multiple players corroborating that there's like just an understanding. It's almost like a rite of passage, right? It's almost like described like as if like, oh yeah, you want to lose your Scully? You know, like don't go mess with Dr. What do they call him? Dr. Anal. I mean, you got Andersized. I mean, just I don't know, man. I mean, like
Bo's kid said, you know, that what happened to him was that he literally did a prostate check on him. He was 10. What for? Like he was 10.
Yeah. What for?
And, you know, and then to say that you tell your dad and then he punches you, you know, yeah, you know, and again, you know, it is, and you think about the treatment that again, you know, Joe Paterno received when Joe Paterno went to police, not campus police, actual cops, and said, this is what I heard, solve this problem. I'm going to go back to coaching football. And everyone was like, oh no, he didn't do enough. He needed to be Batman and like go solve the crime himself. It's like, yeah, you know, so the defending of that Jim Harbaugh's doing and other people of Bo, when the world turned on, you know, Joe so fast before they even knew the details. I mean, we have an HBO movie where Al Pacino literally, you know, plays Joe that literally does more guesswork than explaining what actually happened. But yet we'll revitalize Bo's reputation before we even know, you know what I mean? Like, it's just an opposite. And it shows that when a university stands behind, you'll see this kind of support. And I think that anyone who understands how collegiate academics works knows that everybody in the Penn State scenario saw Joe as a scapegoat, as just an old man they could pin this on and get rid of and move forward, and they wouldn't touch any of them.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Because like the way in which Joe Paterno was used as a scapegoat and the way individuals are often used to cover up systemic problems. I mean,
with the university, yeah.
So talk about maybe how your experience being a Penn State fan and like kind of like that whole situation, like the way in which it was just sort of the way in which also not just Penn State, but that's sort of, you know, illustrative of like an overall problem with like how bourgeois media like treats issues that are systemic in nature and tries to boil them down to being the mere fault. I mean, to being nothing more than just one bad apple. One bad. Look, this is not to absolve any individual, but it is.
No, not at all.
I mean, but it is to like make the point that like it is just because an individual is culpable does not mean there is a lack of institutional culpability to go with that.
Yep.
This is not just a few bad apples. I mean, like, and you look at this case with Michigan. I mean, Schembechler, who has Schembechler Hall, and like not only like I mean he is like held up like as literally the personification of like every like American virtue that you could think of. I mean, I just know growing up, you hear of Schembechler, it's like the hard work, grit, toughness, endurance, perseverance, loyalty, all these kind of like maxims, that are pushed out there that he learned from being an understudy of Woody Hayes. And who knows what I mean. And it's also, there's a generational thing here. And I wonder, Justin, I wanted to ask you about this. Is that, like, there is an issue, I think, with like whether it's Joe Paul's generation, and this is not to absolve them at all, but it is to examine and interrogate why it is that it is so hard for kind of like that older, quote unquote, greatest generation to talk about anything that's happening that's unpleasant. This idea in that generation that like, you're tough and you're rugged and you're robust and you're like, to be a man means that you don't bring up, to be tough means you internalize things. You don't talk about them like a little sissy. You don't go see it shrink. And it's like, where did it come from? And how does that give us more insight into like what the overall like ideological superstructure was that informed the mindset of the quote unquote greatest generation that is hailed as like, like really the embodiment of everything this country supposedly holds up as being great and virtuous and makes the U.S. the greatest country in the world. What is it? Like, what is it that is so hard to like, I mean, you think that like unambiguously this would be an opportunity to just like fry some guy. I mean, if you would like the first time Schembechler heard about this, he went after and like took the stand. Then it's like he could have been like a hero. But what? I don't even understand it from like a personal, like individual stake. Like, what is the mindset you think of that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's just the it's not what you do. I mean, I feel like we know a lot about the greatest generation and a lot about boomers. And how the greatest generation raised those boomers gives us all a really better understanding into our parents, especially if you have parents that'll talk about your grandparents and like understand, like, but also I don't know much about, the greatest generation's parents, you know what I mean? Like, and what gets passed down, but like the absolute fear of being labeled something.
And of course we're using greatest generation in air quotes here.
It's, I don't know. It is. I don't know. I mean, I've talked to my dad a little bit about this, and my dad has all the typical boomer qualities, that I've talked to him about, and what that was like, then raising our generation, things like that. But like his dad wasn't warm. His dad wasn't. You know what I mean? Like just hard as nails.
Does some of that have to do with the Great Depression and like people that like are raised on there was not like a sort of material abundance perhaps, and like like austere demeanor, an idea that in order to raise kids the right way you got to raise them to just whatever bad happens you just keep marching, you don't talk about it, you keep your head down and stay focused, and you just kind of internalize the bad shit, and that's it. That's how you deal with life.
It's kind of like you over focus on things like, we each have our things. Foreign policy and war is my thing. That's just what I pay the most attention to. And it weighs, it can keep you up at night. There's a lot of shit that happens to people that doesn't need to happen to people. And it can weigh on you. And it's just like, that generation kind of coming awake to some of the problems. I think that you had that first generation that was finally just going to go collectively bury the head in the sand. And we're not going to acknowledge this. Like, think about how much could be different had that generation had more activism. I mean, and they did. I mean, you look at what Wobblies were doing. You look at, there's so many things that were happening, and but the large swath of the nation was just
right. I mean, but it's a settler colonial nation, man, and it's like those were militant minorities, and they were a lot, they were a big problem. Look at there wouldn't be Palmer raids if they weren't if they didn't have the fear that it's that revolutionaries have never been a majority. Like nobody, like the majority of people, like are always going to try to find a way to reconcile what they're upset about with like the conditions around them, because you have a family, you have kids, you start, and things have to get really bad for like the and this is not just in the US, this is like worldwide, for people to like embrace, because revolution is not pretty. No. It's not. So like there is, I mean, when you talk about the displacement, almost any revolution that like meaningfully changed who the ruling class was and who held power, to like make rules, to administer power, to decide issues of war and peace, and the distribution of like the material resources of the society, like who holds that has never been a peaceful transition, from one system to another. It just isn't. It's like it is something that like the reactionary forces of whatever power structures in power are going to fight, and are going to like do the most grotesque, disgusting, gruesome things imaginable to stop progress. Because in a system where they have material benefits that are denied to the masses of people, like that's just the way the ball bounces. So you always are going to have a reticence, because what comes to people that try to be. That's why revolutionaries that have been successful, that have even pushed the ball forward and maybe not been successful, but have developed an inspirational legacy that others have picked up on, are held in such high esteem, at least with actual people that want to transform the horrible conditions of the world, and not have a situation where we have a vice president of the United States going down to Guatemala and telling people don't come, as if like people just really want to come to this country that's like got no health care, and like we'll treat them like crap. It's really a testament to how completely horrific the conditions U.S. imperialism has created in their own country, and like has created with the coup d'etats. I mean, in Guatemala specifically, 1954 has created decades of instability and and mistrust and complete and utter just lack of empowerment amongst the masses. So let's get back to Schembechler, because this issue. Go ahead.
So I'm curious. What all will continue to come out, and see how long. What typically happens with this kind of stuff is more stuff will come out, and then you'll find out what exactly people really knew when. Right. It's kind of like I said, the same thing with Penn State, when you found out that like all of that broke in the was that 2011 2000 it was and you find out
2011
and you find out that, like I said, Joe went to the police in 2001. This was a man that Joe fired. This was a man he was not friends with. This is a man who later worked with a charity with a lot of very powerful people involved in that charity, that went to the university, not to Joe Paterno, because Joe Paterno, turns out, doesn't run the university. Goes to the university, does a deal. And then, from there, that all happens. Then you find out that there was a DA in 2005 that went to prosecute and decided to drop all charges. That dude literally has never been found. That's not random conspiracy shit. Like, there is a DA of Pennsylvania missing. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much bigger than one football coach, is my point.
Right.
So I'm curious, like, what more comes out with this. But like, when a university, it's like, if Bo was still coaching and was this old and was still coaching, and the board of trustees wanted him out, like in Joe's case, I have a feeling that they'd give him the Joe treatment then, right? They'd be like, we don't need to hear anymore. This guy's done, like, and out of here, But he's passed and he's a legend. So it only hurts the university for this to be true, as where it benefited Penn State to just blame it on this one guy that, as a board of trustees, they wanted to get rid of anyway, simply because they didn't think 8-4 was was good enough anymore. So No,
I mean, it's like, those are all valid points. I mean, it's like the what went on at Penn State. You have a prosecutor missing, like you said, a DA. You have the instant people that
they found his laptop, but it was missing a hard drive. I mean, this is fucked up shit. Like, this isn't normal everyday stuff that happens to like a DA.
Right. No, not at all. So let's hear from Bo Schembechler's son. This was just today, 4 minutes, and then we'll react.
The story I'm sharing with you today has only been shared with my attorneys and 4 other people. My mother, Millie, my deceased brother, Chip, Don Canham, and my father, Bo. It's a deeply personal and painful story of abuse and betrayal, abuse by a trusted doctor, and betrayal of my father at the University of Michigan, which he served. My father sent me to Dr. Robert Anderson for my first physical exam around 1969. I was in the 4th grade. I had to get a physical before starting tackle football with the junior Wolverines. Dr. Anderson was the team doctor, so that's where Bo sent me for my exam. As a 10-year-old kid, I didn't really know what to expect, but what Dr. Anderson did made me uncomfortable. He fondled my genitals and conducted an invasive rectal exam with his finger. I told my mom as soon as I got home, as I was uncomfortable and shaken. She was a registered nurse, and after she had heard what Anderson did, she knew something was wrong, and she wanted me to tell my dad in her presence. When Bo got home, I told him what happened. It did not go well. Bo's temper was legendary, and he lost it. He screamed, "I don't want to hear this. I'm not hearing this." I tried to tell him repeatedly, but my effort earned me a punch in the chest. This was the beginning of the end of the relationship with him. I hoped my father would protect me, but he didn't. My mom didn't give up. She went over Bo's head and asked athletic director Don Canham to come to the house in the following days to hear what occurred. I respected Don Canham and told him what happened to me at the hands of Dr. Anderson. Mr. Canham told my mother, "Okay, I'll handle this, Millie." It was my understanding that Mr. Canham terminated Dr. Anderson. Shortly thereafter, Bo had him reinstated because he needed his team doctor and wanted to ensure Anderson remained part of the Michigan team. In the 10th grade, I needed another football physical, and that meant another trip to Dr. Anderson. This time I was a little older, but still was told to respect doctors. Anderson groped me once again before I stopped him, as it made me feel uncomfortable. The final time I saw Anderson was as a college freshman for another physical exam, as I was just about to start football at Western Michigan. This time, Anderson didn't lay a hand on me. He signed the paper clearing me to play. Many of the University of Michigan players weren't as fortunate. I trained with them during the summers in the mid-'70s and heard their stories and locker room jokes about Anderson's abuse. We now know, because of survivors coming forward, that Anderson's abuse of players, students for over 30 years was the worst kept secret at the university. I understand the reverence people have for my father, including Jim Harbaugh, but I know the truth. Anderson abused me and countless others over 3 decades. It's clear the culture of abuse at the University of Michigan has not changed and will not change until they acknowledge what happened. Anderson was able to continue this abuse for so long because he was supported by a culture that placed the reputation of the university above the health and safety of the students. That is the culture that made my father a legend and placed his statue in front of Schembechler Hall. It's a culture that he believes, as he did, no man is more important than the team. Dr. Anderson was part of the University of Michigan team. He was part of Bo's team. Therefore, he was more important than any man. It's very clear that Bo and the university always put themselves before any student, athlete, or son just to support the brand. I'm coming forward for my own healing and to help prevent people and institutions from exploiting the trust, power, and authority given to them. I sincerely hope that in some way we'll be protecting others where Bo and the university failed to protect me.
So, I mean, I think it's a remarkable that like all this rhetoric about the team is really just a euphemism for saying, you know, the institution, like protecting the institution, protecting the brand, and really capitalism and protecting our profits, protecting everything, the Block M and all of that. So, I mean, I don't know, as you've like heard from these people your whole life, I mean, what do you make? Tell people that act like that, oh, Schembechler, hail to the victors, there's nothing to be shameful about that. It's all just
It's no different. I mean, this is. I mean, as a lifelong sports fan, but also as, definitely of the. I would be described in some circles on Twitter as a tanky. I think that's it's a pretty open secret. But then again, tanky's used for everything. But anyway, but so sports fan and squaring it with that is that this is where the fandom crosses over into that boosterism, like rah, flags waving when we go to war territory, though, right? Where it's just like the team. You know what I mean? Like the team, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you're like, I get that from, as someone who participated in athletics, it's like, I get that, the team over the individual. That's awesome. That's a great lesson to learn. But at the same time, where does that line? Where do you draw that line?
And it's also for what collective? Collective being Michigan football that is just trying to build a brand, profit off that M. Continue to get recruits, continue to bring bodies in to churn out wins on the field and victories over Ohio State, hopefully. Not like to build a collective based on trying to like build a just society, built up based on trying to make sure that exploitation is fought and the exploiters are held accountable. No, it's about like making sure Bo Schembechler's kingdom is not infringed upon in any way, shape, or form. And like that, that's why I think the people need to hear about 1 minute of what Harbaugh said this week. I mean, we'll move on. But it's just, this is the current head coach of the University of Michigan talking about a guy who knowingly for 30 years protected, a guy that even, stuck his finger up, the anus of his own son. And what does he do when he's informed of that? And for no medical reason, just because he can. And no, you have to actually, not only can you not say anything, I'm going to punch you in the gut. And if you say anything, basically you're just not going to say anything. I'm actually going to also continue to force you to go back to this guy. It's just unconscionable. It's like what was so valuable about this guy, about this doctor? Like, I think of all the doctors in the state of Michigan that would love to be the team doctor for this program. I mean, is this some way of I think I almost don't even believe that he didn't know like about the details at this point, because why would you have that reaction unless you somehow already know about it and you're on edge about potentially having it exposed? I think in some way he wanted to have his players debased and degraded because it fit into this idea of like the destruction of the individual and having that individual then become part of the team. And everyone goes through this rite of passage of Dr. Anus. I mean, I don't know, but it's like, I don't know how else to make sense of this is all I'm saying. Yeah. Let's hear what Jim Harbaugh says, who is still currently employed. Let's emphasize that as the head coach of University of Michigan football.
Coach, recently some news about Bo Schembechler came to light. How do you think the university should go forward in honoring his legacy?
Well, I can tell you this. Bo Schembechler, there was nothing that I saw in the times that I was a kid here, my dad was on the staff, or when I played here, that he never sat on anything. He never procrastinated on anything. He took care of it before the sun went down. So that's the Bo Schembechler that I know. There was nothing that ever was swept under the rug or ignored. He addressed everything in a timely fashion. That's the Bo Schembechler that I know.
Yeah. Before the sun goes down, not the second that he heard about it. Anyway, I always like when people like use that reference, like, I'll get to it before the end of the day. You're like, it was molestation.
Right. No, absolutely.
I know. No, that guy would always get to everything by the end of the day.
By the end of the day.
In a timely manner.
And don't worry, Justin, this is a tanky safe space here toward the Neil and Maine. All right. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
you know what? Maine's one of the only few states I haven't been to. I've got 4 that I've never been to. Maine's one of them. So as long as it's a safe space up there too. So
I mean, I actually go to Maine like almost every summer. So like for at least a week. So Yeah, and have since I was a kid. So Maine's good.
Let's
nice country, man. Yeah,
nice. Let's get to the blood boiling. I think everything we're going to talk about tonight is pretty blood boiling. But let's get to the big one. Let's talk about the Navy.
Yeah, man. All right. So we got it here. So, I mean, look, as you all know who are listening, I go on By Any Means Necessary every Friday. I'll be on tomorrow with Jackie Lukeman and Sean Blackman on Radio Sputnik. And, this story came across me like a few days ago. Jackie Lukeman shared this. Navy denies Cameron Kinley's waiver to be able to delay his service claim. To delay his service to be able to play in the NFL. He'd already signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, already gone to an OTAs. And what's fascinating about this to me is I'm going to share this Washington Post story up here. Is that it's the comments, and hopefully you can share some of these out.
Yeah, but it's the comments, but like the context, right? Like that they approve everyone's.
They have recently.
They have a history of approving this shit.
Like, right. Recently, yes. And you have the recent quarterback at Navy is played for the Miami Dolphins all last season. You have, but then you have the history. Roger Staubach did not have his service delayed.
Yeah,
I've heard. And you have these idiots now say, "Oh man, Staubach did it. So why can't you?" What in the world does Roger Staubach have to do with the reality we're facing in 2021? Not to mention, it's not even about Cameron Kinley, the individual. What this is about is a system that uses football as absolutely a soft power outreach to portray Navy and Army in the same light. I've been to 3 Army Navy games. I've been. My grandfather was a class of 43, June of 43 at West Point. I've been around this stuff. I played Little League baseball at the Naval Air Station in Jacksonville. So I've been around this kind of this culture, and it's the reality is that they treat the Army Navy game like life and death. It's a huge point of pride. Gentlemen's bets are placed, over all sorts of stuff. So many different people base their own self-esteem and sense of self-worth, kind of how they the Goats, Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, whatever you want to talk about.
It's the most important football game between 2 unranked teams in history.
Right.
Sorry, I just throw that out there.
Right.
I just love that there's all this that rides on it, and you're like,
well, it's not even that's the point, though.
I know.
That gets to it. It's first of all, they're not even these are good football players, and I think
absolutely.
Trivializing the athletes, and these are Division I guys that have turned down offers from other places. So, the reality is that a lot of them are jingoistic assholes, but a lot of them aren't actually, and they're kids that have come from oppressed backgrounds, and Cameron McKinley from Memphis, Tennessee, and he's the personification of everything you think the Empire would want to promote. He wants to be president of the United States. He's now an officer commission coming. It's he could absolutely go play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, promote Navy football. It would help their recruiting. So here's the irony: they want to play big time sports because it gives visibility to and it projects the idea of the Navy not just being this place that's of no fun and or the Army and the same thing could be said, or Air Force, but that it's something you would want to go be a part of, and and total obfuscating the reality of what that actually means, being part of the imperial police for the United States around the world, and and all the violence that entails. And so you bring people in under false pretext, and then you've also you're trying to run a program. So which is it? There is an internal struggle within these academies, the service academies, over what their purpose is and how they're trying to project their image to the world. And the problem is you have some people within the institution, and you see this if you go to the Washington Post story. I beg people watching this, look at the comment section. It is astounding. All right, I'll try to go through some of them.
It's rough. It's real rough. Your blood's gonna boil. just That's the only warning I would give. Like, your blood's gonna boil when you go read these. They're gross.
And like, this is like, these are like liberal fascists, all right? Because like, we all know this is like the liberal intelligentsia's favorite newspaper that covers like the empire, and from the perspective of Jeff Bezos. And on top of that, you have Cameron Kinley, who'd already gone and been part of like the Buccaneers offseason, and you just deny it.
Yeah.
But what this tells me is there absolutely is an internal power struggle over like the soul of what these service academies are for. Whether or not we should just like say, forget it. We don't need to like sit there and like promote ourselves and project some kind of image. We are here to like protect and defend the soil of the United States, and we want people that are all about that. Football is a child's game. Sports are child's games. They're games we play as boys to help us become men. But once you become a man, you go serve your country. And us, the taxpayers, we paid for your education. Therefore, what do we want? To have you come back, and after you serve your country, once your brain's beat out and worn out and knocked, up and down the field. So no.
Oh, so they're admitting that part's real?
Right, they are. Right, of course. So of course these fans don't. But what's ironic is like some of these like hardcore jingoistic assholes, like they're anti-sports, because it's just like we see with like the right wing. They see sports now as like the territory of like woke, people talking about racism and like talking about like gender equity and like talking about issues of like unfairness, and it's like to them that's an affront to their like whole identity of like American exceptionalism and whatnot. So they have, there's an element within like this like jingoistic like American military culture that really hates sports now, because it sees mainstream sports culture as being anti-military, anti just flag waving, at least the players on the field. It was just like it's like this, like we have this battleground.
But sports aren't political. They're the same people that will tell you that sports aren't political.
Well, they're sure no, just like the music industry, just like the film industry, the athletic industry. These are the vehicles with which like the United States and not just the United States, but governments, other governments too, but especially the United States being an imperial hegemon and being a country that uses sport in such a way to project that idea of like the U.S. being a sophisticated, mature democracy, and the idea that like the Army-Navy game happens, and it's like we all can have our differences and whatnot. We battle them out in the field, then we come together and we all agree to hate Palestinians, and agree that the Monroe Doctrine is like what we believe in, and we should dominate all of the Western Hemisphere, including Alaska, all the way to Argentina. And wow, what a great thing to come together and celebrate! The United States of Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. Yeah. So, anyways, I want to go through this. It just goes through Cameron McKinley, as you see here. Like, I'll go down. He's really upset. He talked about actually he was the class president, giving a speech for this just 3 days before, like the graduation. He was really excited to meet Kamala Harris, and that was he was the joy of that occasion was taken away. So this is a young man who like absolutely wants to serve the empire. Even though he comes from a background in Memphis, Tennessee, where it's a chance for him to to rise up the ladder, so to speak. And
just in case anyone thought that this guy was being punished because he's the next Justin Jackson, no. This is I mean, he is everything that you'd think they'd want to promote, which is why it's even more baffling. Anyway, continue. Sorry. It's just, it is, this whole story is just wild to me. Unless they're just, do you think that it's because there's going to be upcoming action against China, and they just need people, and they're going to need officers, and they can't spare a person?
No,
I'm just throwing it out. It's speculation. I'm just like, because I'm trying to wrap my head around why they're saying no to this. Like, I just don't get it.
I just think it's pettiness, man. I mean, I think it's just pure pettiness is all it is. I mean, it's like nothing more than
they hurt themselves through the pettiness, though, like that. But I guess that's how pettiness works.
Look, man, divisions within the ruling class. There are people that don't see the value in sports as a soft power projection. They don't. Like, there are people that it also, even if they see the value in it, they resent that. And they want to go back to this BS idea that maybe sports are some intramural thing you do to team build, and that it's just way of kind of building Navy camaraderie and strong midshipmen, and that's sort of that's the raison d'etre of why the academy exists. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's for me, I have a lot of thoughts about this because I've been to West Point, I've been to Annapolis, I have played Little League baseball at the home of the Blue Angels where they were born, and gone to all these Navy air shows as a kid and had a granddad who's a colonel and West Point grad and all that stuff. And it's and then becoming a leftist and all, and really recognizing what all this really means, and never really fully buying into the jingoistic nonsense. I mean, it's disturbing, man. It's absolutely disturbing. Neil's got a good suggestion here. Make Believe Media is actually one of the best books you could possibly recommend. I actually have it on my bookshelf right over there. And if I wasn't so disorganized, I could pull it off for you. But unfortunately, I am kind of disorganized at the moment. So I need to get
there's not a book that parallels it for sports that I'm aware of, which just means that I don't know, one of us should write it, and I don't just mean one of us on talking. I mean one of us out there should write that.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's stuff that hits on it, but not quite to the level that we're kind of getting at here. So, look, it was never me trying to get out of. All right, hold on. Let's see here. Let's highlight this. It was never me trying to get out of my service commitment or trying to avoid my service commitment. Like Kinley said, when I came to the Naval Academy, I was well aware that I would have to serve 5 years. And truth be told, when I came to the Naval Academy, my focus was becoming the best leader I can to serve our country. But the package was I love it, the package, right? And this is key. Navy football has been not, contrary to what Justin just said a few minutes ago, they have been a successful program. Recently. Yeah. I mean, they haven't just been average. They have beaten in a number of powerhouse programs, and including Notre Dame, and have had a lot of NFL caliber players. So Army has kind of risen finally back in recent years, but Navy beat Army 14 years in a row until recently. So let's keep that in mind. Navy has NFL caliber talent. They actually do.
Absolutely. That wasn't a knock on the talent. It's just the way that you were describing the game just made me, it's one of those things.
Oh yeah. I don't care. Yeah, man. It's just the point is, it's just but my point is not to try to just pump these guys up, but it's just to say that look at the benefit the Naval Academy has been getting in recent years in terms of how they're perceived around the country. I mean, look, they never are going to have a problem getting, look, you get literally, you do get your whole tuition paid for, everything. You have a country that is reveres military service and all this, and you're going to have kids growing up. So if you're from any, especially an area where the economic prospects have hollowed out, right, post-industrialization, but yet you have a way of kind of working your way into the establishment, and you come from nothing, and you're a good ball player, and you come from some podunk town, and you love your country. I mean, the Navy can absolutely exploit this, right? And they having just a bad, crappy team is not something that helps them. And the reality is, decisions like this really do actually hurt what they're trying to do in their program, 100%. And they're going to hurt their ability to recruit. So that's what I mean when I say this exposes a divide. Now let's open up the comments real quick now, because that's what I'm kind of getting to. And and I'll only read a few of these, but it's some of them are new here. So I don't want to get into some of the ones today. Oh, actually, never mind. Kinley is whining. Staubach went to Vietnam and satisfied his military commitment even after winning the Heisman Trophy. Is there any video or print of Staubach whining? All right, that is a big-time whiner. I don't think he's going to sit well with his classmates who elected him president. It's they really resent someone trying to play in the NFL, trying to play professionally. And it's look, listen to this one. If this young man wanted to play professional football, he should have attended college somewhere. And this is similar to so many of these. So these are WAPO readers, by the way. one of our military academies. I love these people who probably are paying such a minuscule like amount of taxes, like speaking like as if like the U.S. military budget is their own personal home budget, as if like this country they can just print money with the Federal Reserve. You're spending our taxpayer money. But that is such. I love the Citations Needed episode, man, where they like broke down that like taxpayer funded taxpayer money, the way that obfuscates the reality of like what the empire is doing. It makes it seem as if like we're all part of this like collective that just kind of we all just pitch in a little bit to like support each other. You know, that we're you don't
have a money press in your basement, and you don't control the debt you'd charge yourself for debt you owe yourself. That's weird.
Right?
Doesn't everyone work like that?
Yeah, but we are paying for his education. It's like these people need to feel as if like this black man is like somehow their child or their son that they're somehow like paying for and supporting. That's and if he like steps out of line, that he's like an insolent, petulant child complaining. And that is really, I mean, this is not just anecdotal. I don't think. I mean, this is the paper of record in the U.S. along with the New York Times, and it's like. So we're not talking about reading the comment section of the New York Post here, all right? And like looking at some tabloid garbage, right? This is considered like highbrow, like journalism. And yet, you know, this is and stuff that they don't just have these articles on here for free either. So like, anyway, so, all right, listen to this. The Roger Staubach, David Robinson, Matthew Perry types will do just that. Of all the kids that were starters at Navy, this young man was the only one to get an NFL offer. Yeah, this is true. You didn't just lose one future recruit. You lost 21 future recruits. Yeah, like a whole freaking class. I mean, how are they going to go into anyone's living room and say like, yeah, like they've been promoting the idea that you can like defer your service. And mind you, guys that go and women too, that go to the Naval Academy, the West Point Air Force Academy, very rarely are any of them on the front lines in battle. I mean, like at our West Point, some are, yeah. Some are, they go into the infantry, but most of these go into like intelligence school. They go to, they have officer, you know, they're already officers, and they, you know, who goes out in the front lines? They're the 18-year-olds that go in and enlist from, you know, bumfuck Alabama and you know, somewhere in Ohio or West Virginia or Western PA, and they go sign up out of a sense of like duty, honor, country that the country does not reciprocate, and the country looks at them as like, you know, easy fodder to throw out there to kind of like serve as our, you know, as our muscle, right? They're not valued when they get home. They're not like appreciated. You know, it amazes me how like, you know, it's if it weren't for the works of like private charities essentially that like fill in the gap of what the VA doesn't do, you would have countless more like veterans on the streets being homeless right now. It's utterly astounding. I mean, so let's see. I don't think graduates from the service academies as a rule should get deferments to play sports. The taxpayers pay for their educations, and they hold a valuable asset in getting future jobs after their service is over in industry. Now, what is meant by in industry here? Let's talk about this. In industry.
Yeah.
That means Boeing. That means Lockheed. That means Northrop Grumman. That means Raytheon, General Dynamics. It means like, yeah, and they're right. You could be in that like dullest to DC corridor with the best, most highly funded school districts in the country that are funded by money, taxpayer money, right? Federal government tax money, right? Whatever you want to call it, or just printed money, who knows? That is then distributed, just doled out to these like private industries. In the name of what, promoting democracy?
Yeah. The percentage of their taxes that went to this kid's tuition, I don't know. How many
not even ways, a penny. Not even a penny.
I was going to say, how many ways can I cut a penny? Because I'm going to have to start cutting pennies like hundreds of times to like give you your money back for this kid's. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And it goes on. I get it. Rufus T. Firefly says, I get it. Some folks before him got a waiver and his was denied. In the immortal words of my late father, get over it. Life ain't fair. He chose a scholarship to a service academy with a knowledge and understanding that he had a commitment post-graduation. In return, he got a top-level education, in parentheses, parenthetical, it says FREE, free, and an officer's commission. He could have chosen a traditional college and gone that route. He chose not to. Nice job of using a hyphen there, buddy. No, he could have bailed during the bailing period. He chose not to. He chose to continue and graduate. He asked for a waiver. The Navy chose not to grant it. He is not owed an explanation. He is simply being asked to honor his commitment as the academy did during his time there. The academies are not training grounds for pro ball. They are training grounds for service to our country. As an aside, I am more liberal than most folks, but I just do not see the issue or problem here. Yes,
fucking great.
It sucks for him, but all he is being asked to do is honor his commitment.
He's definitely, it sounds right. Like, so he's still pro-imperial, pro-capital. Yeah, he's liberal.
Right. But he thinks by throwing that out there, that means like that he's somehow like, even though I'm a liberal,
it needs to be said that, like, of course you need to pay the Washington Post in order to be able to put a comment here. But at the same time, what the Washington Post did ever since Watergate, ever since that, all they've done is suck up to the security establishment of this nation. They are one of the most hawkish, pro-war, pro-U.S. security state papers you will find. And that change came after that. And, there's a couple great books on that too, about like the fallout from that, right? They did this like and
Justin's referring to the Pentagon Papers.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And it's one of those things where they did this one thing and then they saw all their sources dry up. And then they got the cold shoulder from the security state after that. They were looked at as, no, if this is what you're going to do with it, then no. And they've been sucking up ever since. They are the number one. I mean, they beat the New York Times at just literally rewriting like any DOD press release, any DOD, like intelligence leak. The Washington Post is your paper for this. So like these people are also like, if you read it, that subconscious bent they have is easily the most pro-U.S. imperial you're going to get from the major papers. I mean, I think they even outdo the right wing.
Outlets
on that.
They are is because it's cloaked in the ideas of like humanitarianism and like and wanting to do the right thing and being against these like monstrous like Trump-like figures, right? So
which is why Rufus can say shit like, and I'm really liberal. Okay.
Oh, right. As if that like gives you the right to be a complete dipshit asshole, and somehow it means like, oh, but I'm a liberal, so like, damn, if I think that, then like it really means this guy is completely out of bounds, So listen to this, Dan Moody, the Hispanic Dan Moody. Listen to this. I agree with the decision, and perhaps not, except for intramural sports. All sports should be discontinued. Great take, Dan. My Hispanic son, when he was sent to Iraq, did not receive a quote explanation either, and he paid for his degree prior to enlisting. I guess thanks for that. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
All right. Your son also couldn't play football in a way that put the Naval Academy on a national stage and like gave them a mountain of good PR and propaganda to portray the Naval Academy as a great place you want to be with great experiences and opportunities and all that, that even if you're good enough to play in the NFL, that we can, because I know for a fact their coaches have been going out in the recruiting trail talking about the fact they give exemptions and waivers.
Yes.
If you're good enough in the NFL.
Come play for us because we'll let you defer if you get drafted. Oh, we had a kid drafted. We're blocking his deferral. There goes your recruit.
He wasn't drafted. He was signed as a priority undrafted free agent. But nonetheless, he was someone the Buccaneers wanted to bring in. Anyways, hold on. Nana says, just end the damn waiver program. I'm not paying taxes to train pro athletes as a, quote, recruiting tool. You want the NFL? Go to Ohio State.
just that easy. You can just go. I mean, apparently, like anyone,
right.
like I don't
just
know, anyone who's listening, just go to Ohio State. Just go play football.
Right. They'll take you. It'll take everybody. Yeah. But they only sign like elite 4- and 5-star guys, man. I mean, like, are you talking about like even really, really good football players that end up playing the NFL don't get Ohio State offers coming out of high school?
Exactly. I think we should throw out there again for folks the fact that the average NFL career is less than 3 years. Okay, so let's just say let's play hypothetical for this kid's career in both directions. Let's say that he's becomes an average NFL player and he's done in 3 years. He doesn't put that much mileage on his body, and he goes and does his commission. Now let's say he goes the other route. So like they lost 3 years. Let's say they go the other route and he is a superstar. You know what I mean? Like he becomes a household name. Like it's all just either way. How do they lose? Like that's my question. Like I don't see a loss for them, which is why this whole like them digging their feet in on this is just so colossally stupid.
It's just like, unbelievably dumb.
No matter which way it goes, it's good for them. He's either going to play short or he's going to play long. And the longer he plays, the more mileage they get out of this. The shorter he plays, the quicker they get him back. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense. At all. I mean, at all. And it's like the reality is all it does. This is how it makes sense. All right. The new commandant, whoever is in charge now, must be an anti-football person. I mean, that's all I can say. And not just an anti-football person, but like a person that it really resents the whole notion of. I think there's race that's tied into this. And I brought this up in my tweet. Like, I really think that it's like, look, there are other examples. There's a Navy baseball pitcher who's white that had this happen to him too, just recently. So it's not like, I'm not saying it's some exclusively race thing. And anyways, but I am saying that like the issue here with, the mentality of this is that like there is an issue with there's a resentment that a young black man from Memphis, Tennessee, who's gone to the Naval Academy and had the audacity to have his agent go to the Washington Post and like publicize this. That is what they're angry about. It is the agency of a young black man they are angry about. And a young black man who is at this school who is like literally the class president. Who absolutely has a case to make, but they resent so much the fact that he actually is trying to like have some agency over his life. He is not just shutting up and taking orders, right? And especially since they convince themselves that they are the ones that are paying for his education, even though you can't even split a penny up enough ways to like put any tangible value of anything that comes out of the pocket of Rufus or any of these other jackasses. That like goes to put a cent into Cameron Kinley's pocket. You can't. So like this guy who's in charge is from that ideological school of thought about the idea that sports should just go back to being intramurals. Fine, fair enough. But the problem is the ruling class doesn't agree, my man. They don't agree. Yeah. And this is what we're seeing. There is division within the ruling class in this country. And it's something that people on the left need to be more attuned to because these are things that can be exploited. Instead of like punching down, as Justin talks about, and like making it as if like Cameron Kinley, who like is politically misguided, but is not the enemy here, is like the problem because he's got like some love for Kamala Harris and wants to be president. No, he's just a young cat who probably hasn't been exposed to like a whole bunch of stuff, politically, and you grow up in Memphis and it's very logical. You have the Naval Academy come in. You're from I mean, like that's a great opportunity. So if you're not like politically attuned to like these kind of international affairs and what capitalism's really like, and you grow up in an education system that feeds you all kinds of nonsense, of course, like is it really that hard to understand how you're going to look at like going to having a full scholarship to the Naval Academy as like not being a great opportunity? But the problem is that you have resentment over people like him as athletes getting appointments to like an academy. They think it should be all people that are like, care nothing more about going and suiting up for their country and going, yes, sir, let me go over to Iraq. I want to go bomb Arabs. I want to go, invading Iran. I want to go F up China. Like that is the kind of person that they define as a patriot, not an athlete, not a black man who has the audacity to go to the Washington Post to challenge like why it is that out of all these people that had their waivers approved, he is not getting his waiver approved. And that is a cardinal sin to these people and these liberal fascists we see here in the comment section. I'm going to only read one or two more of these, and then we're going to go on to the baseball stuff and then wrap up after that. But this is really, really astounding here. Like this one comment here. They quote, Wizards fan in exile 2 days ago. And for somebody to just be able to take that opportunity away from me, this is quoting Kinley here, all right? It just didn't sit well, especially with no explanation. And then here goes Wizards fan in exile with his fascist response here. All right, here is your explanation. You knew when you started the application process for acceptance that you would be required to serve a term of years upon graduation. It's not a term of years, it's 5 years, jackass. All right, you knew that there was no, quote unquote, unless you are drafted / signed by an NFL team exception. No, you actually didn't know that. You knew that you could have withdrawn after 2 years and transferred to a school where there was no post-graduation commitment. You stayed and availed yourself of hundreds of thousands worth of education and training. Now you are asking if you could wait until your football career is over to make good on your promise. Your request has been denied. Your childhood is over. You are now an officer and a gentleman. Officers do what they are told. Gentlemen do what they say they are going to do. Wow, Wizards fan in exile. You're a real keyboard typing, hard ass here. I mean, it's just astounding to me. These people, this guy's on a WAPO comment section, trying to vicariously experience what it would be like to be a boss and be able to just shut people down and and fuck people over. But guess what? He doesn't have that power in his own life. So he's in a comment section of an article punching down.
And also, reminder, he pays for the Washington Post. Just in case anyone out there.
Look, Justin and I cannot comment on there. We are not allowed to comment unless we pay for the Washington Post. But we do not pay for the Washington Post. Therefore, we cannot challenge this jackass Wizards fan in exile.
Anyways,
final thoughts.
It is mind-blowingly stupid that they're not approving this kid's again. That politics-wise, this player is perfect for them. I mean, he's right up the Navy's alley. It's clear why he went in. It's clear everything he says. This is for a brand, the DOD, I do refer to them as a brand, but as a brand, they pay so much money to involve themselves in sports, and here they're denying their own chance at marketing. They're denying their own chance. And like you said, right, it's a division of the ruling class, which, I mean, yes, we need to do better at exploiting, but at the same time, divisions in the ruling class, I always love to see because it's just a sign of our country in decline, which everyone thinks that means that it's going to end. I love all the takes. There's so many takes out there about why America can't fail, why America can't be, the next Rome. I don't know if you've noticed this, but you can go to Rome, you can fly there tomorrow. It's still there. This idea of it's fall meant it no longer exists. No, it changed. Right. It changed and it evolved. And that's literally what they're fighting. They're fighting evolution. They're fighting social change. They're fighting all of these different things they just don't want to have happen. They never want to have it happen. And oh my God, they will kill any of us to keep that from happening because it's a small price to pay. What did Madeleine Albright say? It was worth the cost.
It was worth it. It was worth it. Of course, it was worth it.
It was worth it. It was worth it. Just ask those 2 million children. It was worth it. Anyway,
to be fair, it might have been just around 1 million, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was actually. I think that 2 million people died under those sanctions, but it was 500,000 children. I think she was specifically asked about the children, and she still said, "Yeah, it was worth the price," which is funny because Madeleine fucking Albright didn't pay any price. Anyway, I love it when someone who hasn't sacrificed and never did anything like just says, it's worth it. In the end, is worth the cost. And you're like, you didn't pay anything.
They want this guy not to be able to go represent them in the NFL.
Exactly.
As if anyone in the media is going to pay attention to him being an officer school in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
Sorry, nobody gives a shit that much. All right. Like they really don't. And here it is at freaking OTAs, doing this thing, which he won't be able to do anymore now because he's got to go to officer school because, according to these guys, these taxpayers, they paid so much, right?
Hundreds of thousands. I love that guy said hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands is literally anything from 200,000 to 999,000. You know what I mean? Like, what a dumb thing to say. Hundreds of thousands. It's a non-specific number. And I guarantee his education didn't cost that. Anyway,
hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Anyways, let's transition to baseball. Tell us what's up with Pete Alonso. Not just this sticky stuff that's been going on, but what do you make of I don't know what I'll be honest, Justin, the conspiratorial comments. I don't really see what his point about they're colluding to keep the salaries down anymore. I think it doesn't make sense because then you're just gonna have to pay the pitchers that much more. I don't know. I think Alonso.
I don't think it's that crazy because here's the thing in baseball, there's never a free agency year of the pitcher and the hitter. There's only a year of the hitter and there's only a year of the pitcher. Like you look at this year, Max Scherzer's a free agent and that's it. But look at the shortstops. Shortstops that are going to be.
But the problem this year, he's talking about what happened last year with the baseballs, though. Yeah. That's not even an issue right now. They're trying to actually.
The COVID year is weird. Year is weird.
But my thing is I don't put. Look, I'm not trying to sit here and stand up for MLB owners. I just don't see Alonso's point actually having value anymore. I've actually closely examined it. And what I'll say is this, they are actually trying to amp up offense right now by making sure that pitchers cannot continue to use these sticky substances that are giving them more ability to get more spin rate on the ball. So it's I don't think it adds up. Tell me why I'm wrong.
So the one thing that I'll say is that when I heard what he said, and it's conspiratorial. Oh my God, please tell me that the 9/11 photos come up when you search Pete Alonso. Anyway, a San Diego fan, if you're out there, whoever created those images, that was an amazing day on Twitter. It's a day I'll never forget. It's probably my favorite day on Twitter. Anyway, and if nobody knows what I'm talking about, just check out Pete Alonso ISIS because, man, that was a great day.
University of Florida grad, by the way.
Yeah. I'm just saying, for the Twitter people, search Pete Alonso ISIS. It was good. Turns out it was just some guy who hates Pete Alonso and hates the Mets that made all those images. But Pete Alonso himself got into the comments. It's pretty fucking good. Yeah. This is the year that he broke the rookie record.
I'm not trying to be a fan.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, that was the year that he broke the rookie record. But that actually has to do with my point, right? It's when I first heard that Pete Alonso said this shit, I thought about it and I was like, okay, there are some things that are true, right? You don't ever have a huge free agent class of pitchers the same as you have a free agent class of hitters. That's just doesn't really happen. So thought about that a little bit more.
How about break down very specifically what he claimed and how that actually.
Yeah, so he's claiming that in years where your pitchers are going to be dominating the free agent class and you have multiple pitchers on the free agent market, and we're talking across the board, right? So you just have pitchers galore, that before that year, baseball will dejuice the balls to deflate pitchers' numbers, inflate hitters' numbers, make pitchers look worse, devalue them, pay them less. And vice versa for years when hitters dominate the free agent market. So when hitters are going to dominate the free agent market, did I get that backwards? got so hard with juice, de-juice, which one's which, who you juicing the ball for. The point is that then they'll artificially inflate pitchers' numbers, which is what you'd say that is happening this year. If you look at the fact that we've already had 7 no-hitters thrown, you've had, bad, like hitting is historically down. So like, that's what he's saying. He's saying that the MLB is doing this intentionally. They are hyping up the ball when pitchers are going to be free agents, and they're hyping down the ball. God, see, this gets tough. Up, down, juice, de-juice. You guys all get what I'm saying. The point is that
I don't know, man.
So if you're gonna have a bunch of hitters, free agents, you want to de-juice the ball and inflate pitcher numbers. You want a ball that travels less distance. You want to keep balls in the park. You want to bring their numbers down as hitters. So when they enter the free agent market, no, I've never said that I agree 100% with what he's saying. But at the same time, this is what he's saying. That's what he's saying. They hurt hitters in years that they're going to dominate the free agent market, like a year like this year, where again, we've seen 7 no-hitters. We've seen, pretty mediocre pitchers come out and do some pretty awesome things, or at least put up numbers that they hadn't before. Vice versa for hitters. And this is the only interesting thing that I actually think. So this is what it comes back to: Pete Alonso's rookie year and breaking that record. I think in a way that's Pete Alonso literally telling you he's not that good. He wasn't good enough to break that record because he alludes to it and he stops. And that is that the year he broke the record was a year where you were going to have pitchers dominating the free agent market. And it's a year where Pete Alonso, who's a pretty average hitter, breaks the rookie home run record, And it wasn't on contact
because the balls are juiced, supposedly, right?
Yes, and so I don't think he was going to straight out say my rookie year should have. I don't believe in it. Like, I don't think he was going to go that far. Like, he's not going to self-deprecate for everybody, but at the same time, I mean, he alludes, like, that's the only thing that made me think about what he said a little bit more, because the fact that he brought himself into it. But he didn't go as far to say what he meant. But like, let's be honest, that's what he meant, because he's never had a year like that.
Right.
And, one of those years was a COVID year. Yes, that changed everything for everybody. He even said that in his statement. Like last year was different overall. I think the real thing here, though, I think what he's trying to do is what he's got wrong is he's got how they're doing it. I don't agree with that part. I'm with you. I don't think they're like up and down for who's who. I think this is Pete Alonso, who, no offense to Pete Alonso, I don't think is like, a scholar in a lot of ways.
I'll go ahead and say like he's not a scholar, like not think.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go definitively say that. Yeah.
So, but here are facts. Major League Baseball does fuck with baseballs. Like, they do that. That is 100%.
They own the damn factories, man.
Yes.
Tell them maybe about that. They own factories in Honduras. They own factories, I believe, also in some other countries too. So it's like the idea they don't want,
and they can be the only provider,
right? So
it's I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to draw a line with the fact that baseball free agency, if there's any baseball fans out there, you've known these last few years have been fucking wild. Like, you don't see players sit as long as they sit on the free agent market. This is new. And you know why? Because owners just don't want to spend money. And owners are trying their hardest to deflate the value of people. Now, every once in a while, a team breaks that rule. Like, I guarantee you, when Garrett Cole signed his deal, there were some owners that were like
9 years, $324 million.
I guarantee you there were some owners that were like, you could have made him wait an extra week. I do think there's collusion in baseball. I do think the owners and the league all get together to make certain decisions. I think what Pete's trying to do is, like, Pete Alonso's trying to explain for two things. He's trying to explain why he will never be as good as he was in his rookie year. I think he knows that. Like, he's trying to explain that away by logically looking at, to him what makes sense. And he's also trying to explain why I'm sure a lot of players talk about, they don't look forward to free agency. Like this is like baseball's big answer. And these last few years have felt super shady on the owner's parts, because they'll come out of winter meetings and they will not have talked about anything. Like, they'll talk about owner shit, but they don't talk about players moving. They don't talk about like what free agents. It is a dead zone, and they've done this intentionally. So Major League Baseball definitely juicing baseballs, definitely affecting baseballs. Major League Baseball and owners colluding to drive down the cost of players, definitely happening. He's then connecting dots that don't exist.
Right. No doubt. I mean, I'm not at all saying like, look, I mean, maybe my mind was warped as I drove home listening to 98.7 ESPN New York, and I heard Michael Kay, voice of the Yankees, like tell me why Pete Alonso is full of crap. So just to throw that out there, perhaps, I'm the victim of a psyop now. No. Like, let's look at this real quick. This New York Post article here real quick that just dropped, because now I don't know if you realize this, but this just dropped this afternoon. Former Red Sox star Will Middlebrooks adds $395 million wrinkle to Pete Alonso's conspiracy theory. So I want to get your reaction to this. Have you seen this, Justin?
I have not.
All right. So
it's going to be good.
New York Post this afternoon. Former Red Sox third baseman Will Middlebrooks thinks Pete Alonso's theory about MLB manipulating baseballs to benefit the free agent market makes sense. The 2013 World Series champion weighed in on the Mets star's theory Thursday and admitted that while there isn't enough evidence to prove the claim, quote unquote, something's fishy here, Middlebrooks told CBS Sports. Middlebrooks shed light on MLB's purchase of sporting goods manufacturer Rawlings and how it could support the theory. In 2018, MLB bought the rights to Rawlings, which we just alluded to, the company for $395 million. He said, adding that the business deal was, quote, swept under the rug for some time. Quote, now MLB has the rights and the capability of accessing the manufacture of the baseballs that they use every day. That's something to think about. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist here. I feel like you always have to say that if you're about to launch into a conspiracy theory to make your conspiracy theory sound a little like less crazy. But like the reality is that's what the ruling class does on a mass level, because they want that dynamic to exist. Where if it's not published in the Washington Post, the New York Times, or some paper of record, that you are gaslighted into thinking you're crazy for speculating about the fact that there is all sorts of collusion that goes on amongst like the ruling elites. And it's not like a conspiracy theory. Like conspiracies are people are charged with conspiracies all the time in this country and other countries. It's like a group of people that come together to do something for their benefit at the expense of everybody else, right? It's not like the craziest thing to think that conspiracies go on like that. Literally happens, all right? But it does mean that you have to be discerning. It doesn't mean they all make sense, all right? So anyways, that's something to think about. He goes, but I do not think there's an issue there. And another thing is they change the ball every year. What other sport does that? Middlebrooks asked, before noting that sports including hockey, tennis, basketball, and football do not change the ball each year. All of a sudden in 2018, they juice balls. They juice balls, Justin, all right? And then, like he said, they had the big class of pitchers. Well, those ERAs are obviously through the roof, and there are home runs given up, runs given up. Obviously, everything is bigger, so you don't have to pay them as much. It makes sense. Middlebrooks continued. Wow, this guy is really a scholar here. Middlebrooks continued to question, what are we doing here? Why is the baseball changing every year to fit the needs and wants of the ownership groups? See, class struggle right here. Will Middlebrooks, class struggle. It's all coming together, Justin. Before warning,
it's all coming together.
That, quote, the commissioner works for the owners. Wow, nobody knew that. Thank you for pointing that out. He added, something's off, hoping something comes out before the CBA, because this could really get messy. All right, that is an actual point we're going to get to in a minute, because CBA, and there is probably going to be a strike or a lockout, because they are not going to agree to a new new collective bargaining agreement. Like these sides, this is going to be an intense and protracted labor dispute struggle, and it's not going to just go quietly into the wind. I highly doubt baseball will be played in the way we're used to it opening day 2022. So you can hold me to that, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. All right.
There's no way. My number one issue with this article, and I'm going to piss off any Red Sox fans, and that is that, first of all, like, it loses all credibility by saying superstar Will Middlebrooks. Anyway,
hey, so what do you mean
superstar?
Come on, man. Will Middlebrooks is a World Series champ, Justin.
Superstar. No, superstar. You know what was a
superstar?
Deion Sanders was a superstar. Like, it's ridiculous.
Come on, man. Like, Will Middlebrooks, I'm Tommy from South Boston. I go park my car at the bar, then I go to Fenway Park and I watch Will Middlebrooks, my superstar.
Yeah. I will eat my own shoe if I run into a Middlebrooks jersey in the wild.
All right. What about the 2004 World Series?
Yeah, I mean, listen. All right, 2004. I don't even want to talk about. I don't even know why you bring that up. Nate, I gotta go. It's late.
I don't know either, man. Like, I honestly, like,
we're 2-2. Hey, we're 2-2 against the Red Sox in World Series. Right. We're 2-2 against them. It's fine.
I hate the Red Sox. I guess I was just being an opportunist. So.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I get it. I would have made that joke at me. So again, it's like it's how conspiracies used, right? Like,
hold on. It's if a Yankees fan can make a joke about 2004, right? I mean, literally, the Yankees were the first ever team to blow a 3-0 lead in any MLB playoff series ever.
Yeah, ever. And I believe in games 4, 5, 6,
and 7.
You had a lead in each of them.
That's correct.
I'm just going to throw that out there. So not only did you lose, I mean, let's be honest. The 2016 Indians are the biggest choke in a World Series ever, so that's fine. And that's the only reason the Cubs have one. Anyway,
after what, 108 years of not winning a World Series,
and they still shouldn't have one.
Their prior one being 1908, and they got a roll to Chapman for a few months, right? And after,
I love that he didn't go to the parade and didn't collect his ring. He was like, I don't care.
I'm going back to the Bronx.
That is one of the most beautiful things. It's the only thing I'll praise from a Yankees player is Aroldis Chapman refusing to go to the parade.
What it shows perfectly is the mercenary nature, man, of the sport.
Yeah, and you can't blame them, especially with the nature of where Major League Baseball's at and how they're really there's no better word for it, rat fucking the players at this point. They are. I mean, what they're doing is unbelievable. To get to Middlebrooks's comments and how they kind of fit in with Alonso's comments, these guys are trying to make sense of what they see. Right? Because again, two just undisputable facts. Major League Baseball is tampering with balls. Everyone knows that. They talk about it. MLB Network, turn on any show at any time. They'll literally talk about the juiced ball era and that we're in it. I mean, this is not a secret they're keeping. It's really crazy that you have baseball players being like, I think these balls are tampered with. You're like,
that's unbelievable, Justin. I cannot believe it.
And they also look at the fact that there shouldn't be any baseball player, even with what happened with Garrett Cole, there shouldn't be any Major League Baseball player that's looking forward to free agency right now, because it happens year after year after year. I got that right. Year. Yeah, 3. Because it's been 3 where it has been wild to watch. It would be like, imagine. Yes, your superstar will get signed. Your superstar will get signed within the first 2 weeks. But I'm trying to think, Nate, name me a cornerback who's like 7th best in the league. There's more football than the league, man. Like 7th best. I'm just trying to get a frame of reference.
I mean, I don't know, Dory Jackson. I mean, there's like the plenty of guys you can go with, but yeah.
So it'd be like I mean, that's a great example. It would be like Dory Jackson 2 months into free agency having no contract. That would blow your mind. And that's what's happening in baseball. And it's happened 3 years in a row now. So again, these guys, they see a pattern. They see, all right, the ball seems weird, and it really seems like teams aren't willing to pay us, and teams aren't willing to talk to us. And they're literally stretching this out almost like it's intentional to drive down the cost, because you go, if every team agrees, look, we're not going to call these people for a month. We're going to make everyone sit for a month. I mean, even Garrett Cole sat for literally, it was like 19 days. I mean, for Garrett Cole, you know the Yankees were going to do this. That should have been day one of free agency. That deal was done. But it was still done almost 20 days.
Look, we have to point out that 9 years, $324 million is not a lot of money for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's really not.
Yeah.
But you look at like the scope of how much money is made on the Yes Network, on like, you know, being the third biggest brand in the world, right? Being you know, in the city, being the primary team. And the Yankees are so far above what the Mets have in terms of revenue, it's not even comparable. And they're
like higher than any baseball team in revenue.
Right. So you act as if like then they'll try to play this BS game as if like, oh, we got to stay beneath the luxury tax and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, and like, look,
cool.
You can say, look, there are certain things. You do lose a second and a fifth round pick if you go over a luxury tax. You lose 10 slots down in the first round.
Because the draft matters in baseball a whole bunch.
Come on. I mean, Justin, I'm you know, just I'm kind of parodying shit I heard on sports radio.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you look at baseball, and you're like look at the top 10 picks of every year. I don't know, from any 10-year stretch you want, you're going to be like, who the hell are these people? I've never heard of them. You know, there are exceptions to that rule, but that's the rule. I mean, yeah. So it's. I think that what you have here is a classic example of two things. One, these baseball players are just trying to make sense of what they're seeing, right? And they're making sense of it in a dumb way. And you'll have that. You know, they're human. We're all human. We've all had a dumb idea. This is a dumb idea. But it's rooted in something that's really good. And that is that, yeah, they're fucking with the baseball. And yeah, it is the worst kept secret.
You know, and by fucking with the baseball, let's be specific. We mean they've been tightening up the seams, loosening up the seams on it. That has an effect. Like, I mean, Justin, maybe
they're altering it to try to make more money.
All right, who benefits? All right, who benefits when you tighten the seams up on the baseball? The hitter or the pitcher?
Tighten the seams, the hitter.
The hitter. So when you loosen the seams, the ball will not travel as far. So
yes.
There you go. And MLB owns the damn factories. And they use sweatshop Honduran labor to make the baseballs. I mean,
so
just keep it real.
And again, you know, just like anything, like it would be like if you had you have this union workforce. Let's be honest, baseball's still pissed at Kurt Flood. You know they are. They're still pissed. They don't want free agency. They want old.
They want the reserve clause back, man.
Yes, they would love that back. They're never going to get that back, and they're fighting back in the best way that they know how. They're fighting the best way a billionaire knows how to fight, because every owner in the MLB is a billionaire.
So you collude with other billionaires.
Yes, you collude with each other, and you say, nope, freeze them out. This free agency, freeze them out.
Wait, you're saying that the Cardinals owner cares more about freezing out players in solidarity with fellow billionaires than winning World Series for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Yes, they all do.
Whoa. I mean, I believe sports was the one last thing that was pure and good in our society. You know, I mean, that's like the dumbass sports fan that like actually believes that shit. You kind of feel bad for it. You know, they're like hangs out at the baseball card shop and is like sitting there trading all day, like at a table.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I got a 1951. Well, actually, you got a 51 Mickey Mantle card. You'll be the hell out of there. But like,
yeah. I was just saying, you're not in that shop.
Yeah. But anyways, I want to finish going through this.
Yeah.
To react.
My point is that yes, these guys, they're on to two things that are happening. They're putting them together in a wrong way, right. But again, they're human. So.
Right. Yeah. So just Middlebrook said he's heard rumblings of this type of theory at the very end of his career. The 32-year-old missed the entire 2018 season with the Orioles after he suffered a broken leg in spring training. He later announced his retirement as a superstar, Justin, in January 2019. Middlebrooks also weighed in on the, quote, sticky substance situation in which MLB is cracking down on pitcher-friendly foreign substances. See, Justin, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they're cracking down on the pitchers, how could they be trying to? I mean, I don't know. I guess they're trying to get hitters paid now. Let's see. I don't know. In which MLB's cracking down on pitcher-friendly foreign substances. The issue, with sticky substances. The issue with the sticky substance. That's weird that it came up right now in a season in which you altered the baseball more than you ever had in the past, Middlebrook said. You can de-juice it by 5%, but you can't admit to juicing it. That makes no sense to me. I don't know.
Would be a bad year to juice it.
Yeah. I mean, they have. I mean, but let's be real. They have juiced it before.
Oh, no, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, like, right now, like, you look at who's going to be a free agent this year. This is not the year you juice it. Like, if Pete Alonso's theory is correct, this is a bad year because it is shortstop heavy. It is power shortstop heavy. Like, Scherzer is the only pitcher that's going to be a free agent that's worth throwing money at this year.
Right. So why would they juice the baseball then?
Exactly.
If they're trying to compress salaries.
Yeah. So, again, like, yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
It's wild.
The biggest concern is MLB manipulates the baseball year in and year out, depending on free agency class or guys being in an advanced part of their arbitration. Alonso said during a video conference with reporters on Wednesday. Maybe if the league didn't change the baseballs, guys wouldn't have to use as much sticky stuff. He added, "Wow, what a great and brilliant end to your quote there, buddy."
Super smart take.
Really smart take there. No, that's not what we want to do there. But anyways, yeah. So a few things here. I want to wrap, but I want it, Justin, when Justin gets back, is just
No, I can still hear
you. Yeah. It's basically, what do you make of like what's going on with MLB in terms of labor right now, and what this collective bargaining situation is going to look like, and what the owners are going to try to do. What are their demands on the players union? And is there any hope of there not being a strike in 2022? I mean, I don't even say hope. I mean, like, I'm not going to ever be against the strike. But I mean, is it inevitable that there won't be a new CBA once it expires after this season, and that we are going to go into a protracted labor dispute between the Major League Baseball Players Association, Players Union, and Major League Baseball and their owners?
I'm going to put this in the simplest and most concise way that I can, and that is that, number one, there is going to be a dispute. There is going to be some form of player action here, and I don't think that you're going to have a 2022 season that starts on time. And here's why: as a leftist, as a communist, I would recommend everybody support the players on this. And the reason being is everything we just talked about. The owners have been doing this now. They have organized really hard. They have done all of this action. They've done everything they've done to try to drive down player power. And it has been strong these last few years. Again, we're talking the best players in baseball become free agents from like 2019, 2020, 2021, and they just sit and nobody talks to them. Nobody's calling anything. Nobody's calling agents. Nobody's doing anything. The owners are doing this to drive down the overall value that baseball players have. And these owners cry poor. The COVID year was one of the most disgusting years for baseball because you had two things happen. One, you're coming off the heels of the Derek Jeter thing we've talked about several times on here, right? Where Derek Jeter, he didn't know better, and the other owners, I'm sure, scolded him for this, but when he literally said, yeah, no, we had no attendance and we were a bad baseball team, we made money. That was a cardinal sin. You can't say that out loud. You can't let people know you still make money when your team sucks and nobody goes, because it's all in the TV deals. It's all in your marketing deals. It's all in your distribution. They make so much money off of that stuff. They turn a profit even when their teams are bad and even when no one comes. And then last year during COVID, they tried to make it even. God, I hate billionaires so much. They literally cried so much about losing the fan element. Again, their games were televised.
Justin, I just need to point out that Derek Jeter is now like the president of the Miami Marlins.
I know.
I know. Just for our listeners, I'm not sure. Some people don't follow baseball closely.
Yeah. So, and he's and like I said, a few years ago, he made that mistake of saying that out loud, right? He pulled the Trump. He did the thing where it's like, no, you're just supposed to do that. You're not supposed to say that. We all love it when you do that. We all hate it when you say that. Owners have been crying for too long about baseball. Oh, it's just not as popular. It's just not as cool. Tell that to the sports network that every year, one of the teams in baseball, every year, one of the teams will sign a new multi-billion-dollar deal to exclusively air their games and black out customers and completely wipe this from viewing network unless you pay for a certain cable tier and blah, 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 which is how baseball operates. And that will net them more than any success on field that winning a World Series will bring them. And because they all think in short term, because they're billionaires. Let's be honest, these are baseball owners too. So they're all over 60 years old. So they think in the short term. How do I make money right now? Yeah, I could build a team over a decade, have lots of success, get more fans, get more everything, pay more for the play. Like, they don't think that way. They just want money now. And money now screws fans, and money now screws players, which are their workforce. They're employers. Baseball players are employees. We are going to see a strike this year because it's the only way you can get back as players what they are trying to take from you with this bullshit action that they've been doing. Like the freezing out, it's so I know football is your main sport. So I'm going to keep going back to that as like the metaphors, because for us baseball first people, this has been mind blowing what's happened these last 3 years. Like, I really want you to imagine a year where like football enters free agency and nobody signs a deal in 20 days. Not a single player. Nobody. Like, that's never happened in football. Like, those best dudes, they've already been, let's be honest, they probably tampered. They've probably already like talked to teams. Their agents have already talked to teams because they're trying to make moves. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to make moves. They're trying to get these players. But imagine if you had your free agency as normal in football and no one's being called. That would blow your mind. And then it kept happening. And then the pause got longer. And then players sat longer. And now you get to the point where, let's say you have perfectly able-bodied people that are in their prime that can still contribute. And now it's June and they still don't have a team.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Right.
And it is, so I do think it's unavoidable, but the reason we should support it is this is what the owners are doing. The owners are crying poor. None of them are poor. They're crying like revenue losses. No one has a loss. Nobody has a loss.
Could you maybe talk about the Ricketts family in Chicago and Northside? They have built this whole Wrigleyville deal, and you have the owner of the Chicago Cubs on the gold mine that is Wrigley Field trying to tell us that they are not making any money. And I'm just wondering if you've heard that and if you have any comment.
Sorry, I'm muted because I'm pouring a drink. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted that entire time. So think about it this way: the Ricketts cry poor better than most families cry poor. They have owned the Cubs for a long time now, and despite being absolutely god awful at baseball, they still turn a profit. Again, they've been 100. They went 108 years. They could still field a team that is chose not to
Justin,
profits.
Tom Ricketts said most MLB owners don't take money out of their team. They don't make any money. It just all goes into supporting the product on the field. There you go.
There you go. Everybody, that right there is the reason why find an owner, punch an owner. It is ridiculous that they say this shit because, again, they don't like. This is simply not true.
They literally believe if they're not making like insane amount of money, that means they're losing money. So in their mind, he's not lying. It's like I only made like $10 million last year, after expenses. So like I lost money. Like that means that like I didn't get the return on investment ROI, meaning I lost money. That is their mindset. And 10 million is a way. I mean, I'm being extremely like lowballing what they're actually talking.
Yeah.
I mean, but they act like they spend so much. And granted, I will grant this point that for a lot of owners, it's not always about like what they literally actually bring in year out, but it's also the everything that goes with being an MLB owner, the access that gets you to even higher levels of the ruling class, right? Because these are not like the Vanderbilts, the Carnegie type people. These are mostly like, all right, they're extraordinarily wealthy people, but amongst like as far as the American ruling class goes, they're still kind of treated like sport team owners as like nouveau riche, like kind of like new kids to the club, especially if you're talking like Eastern establishment type money. I mean, like Woody Johnson of the New York Jets, who kind of bought them as like a pet project, is maybe an exception, that the scion of the Johnson & Johnson fortune. But by and large, these are people that like the old Eastern elite of the U.S. kind of like
this money is older than NFL money, and this money, baseball money. What's crazy about baseball is that like this doesn't happen in other sports, right? So like, let's say that.
Hold on, Justin. Punch that guy in the face. Everyone punch him in the face. All right, go ahead.
Oh God. So let's say the Patreon, which by the way, speaking of baseball, Patreon right now, my interview with Andrew Marinus about the Glenn Burke story is up on Patreon right now.
Absolutely amazing.
Anyway, let's say that Patreon blows up, Redspin blows up, and Nate and I get enough money to buy an MLB team or any sports team. Let's say that we first look into the NHL and they're like, buy whatever team agrees. And the NFL goes, we don't care, buy whatever team agrees. And then basketball is again, buy whatever team you can buy. Baseball is the only sport where unanimously the other owners have to agree that you get to be an owner.
Unanimously.
Not unanimously.
Not an overwhelming majority.
Nope. Unanimous. They all have to agree you're part of the club. Like, it is insane. Like, I mean, I remember there was a couple of years ago, somebody talked about like Mark Cuban buying the Texas Rangers. And he was like, I am not going to try. Like, there is no way. Like, I mean, I'm not defending Mark Cuban here. I'm just saying, like, this is a man who at least knew, like, Mark Cuban can't even buy his way into a baseball team because, no, that money's not, like, that type of old money, that type of owner, nope, they're not going to let you in. Like, when the Bushes sold the Cardinals to the DeWitts, like, just imagine who the DeWitts had to be for Anheuser-Busch money to sell it to them, and then every other owner to go, yeah, no, you're a family we approve of. It's ridiculous. Now you can buy in as a part owner like Magic Johnson did with the Dodgers. You know, Magic Johnson didn't have to get unanimous approval to pay 1% into the owning the Dodgers. But like, as far as like a principal owner, you have to have not unanimous approval. So yeah, this crying poor that they've all done, like I said, they're pissed at arbitration. I want you to think about that. The owners are pissed that arbitration exists. And arbitration exists as just a way to keep the owners in some sort of check. I mean, the arbitration process in baseball is, I mean, it's okay. It's not great. It benefits the player, 60% of the time. It benefits the owner 40%. And I really want everyone to let that sink in. The owners are pissed because they would really like that to be the other way around. They would like it to benefit them 60% of the time, not 40% of the time. These are the kind of gripes that people like Tom Ricketts have. Tom Ricketts, who, by the way, is building Wrigleyville, which is a development, which is going to gentrify. He's going to become a landlord. He's going to own valuable property. I know, I get that. Yes. He's going to have so much more revenue, and he's telling you that he's doing it out of a labor of love. Yeah,
absolutely.
It is absolutely disgusting.
So, anyways, yeah, I mean, it's a labor of love. Of course, we all know that for the Ricketts family. They just care so much about the Cubs, the North Side, the quaint makeup of Wrigley Field. So much so that they literally are building big jumbotrons that are so large as to block out the view of the rooftops of apartment buildings that are in the area.
Because you can't have people looking in.
You can't have people looking in without paying the toll to the Ricketts family, right? So on that note, I think we're about to wrap. So we appreciate all y'all being here tonight. We're going to obviously stay on these topics for a long time. I mean, the MLB issue with the collective bargaining agreement expiring is a major labor issue. It's going to get nastier as the
season goes. Yep.
And it's going to heat up. So appreciate y'all being here. The issue with Bo Schembechler, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan men, they need to be called out. Right? And this is a chance. Michigan, where do you stand, right? Do you stand with Schembechler Hall, hail to the victors? Everything's about your program and defending the glory of that, or about standing with victims. All right, you got to decide. The same thing. We got it. Not the same thing at all. Actually, the totally different thing. But the issue with the service academies and the insane contradictions we see that are the ruling class is even experiencing. There is not agreement amongst them, which is a weakness. And people need to realize in this country that as powerful as the ruling class is, and all the power that's concentrated in that old DC corridor, they have major weaknesses, and there are major divisions, and there's not enough attention shown on that.
No, not at all.
And so we're going to continue to do that. And this issue here with MLB and the labor dispute that's already underway. I hope Tony Clark stands strong, the MLB union chief and former Detroit Tigers first baseman, because they're going to need to, because they're going to have everything imaginable thrown at them to try to break any kind of labor solidarity. And the money they are making, even the 9 years, $324 million Garrett Cole is being paid. I'll tell you, it is peanuts compared to what these billionaires have in their pockets. That's all we got to say on that note. So
absolutely.
I appreciate it. And on that note, peace out till next week.